Welcome to Top Shelf Tech. Today we are talking about reInvent, doing our final recap of the virtual conference that we've had this year. And I've got Neil Webster, Head of SaaS New Zealand, joining me today from AWS. Neil, welcome along.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. And I think we were just talking earlier, it's been a bit of a different reInvent this year, spread out, obviously not there physically. And how have you found it?
Yeah, good. I made one of the 4:30 starts. I have to admit, the rest of them I've watched the delayed coverage.
Yeah.
But no, it's been interesting, hasn't it? Over 3 weeks, I think it's probably allowed us to get a few more customer stories in there when you spread it out, hear from a few different sorts of people, different sorts of presenters. But no, it's been good. There's been some good product stuff. We definitely missed the socializing though.
Yeah, it's a nice time of the year to get together and share the war stories after a year of commerce of battle, or whatever you want to call it. But good keynotes with Andrew Jesse a couple of weeks ago, and some solid announcements there. And then we were talking earlier, there's been a lot of other bits and pieces that show maturing of products that AWS have had, and and sort of one concept you talked about, Lego blocks, and we've seen lots of new Lego blocks.
It's interesting, isn't it? Like I often think about the technical adoption curve, and we talk about like the hype cycle and coming in and out of hype cycles, and when things get to maturity. And if you look at just take machine learning, I remember when I started, I've been 4.5 years. We had one machine learning service. It was called the AWS machine learning kind of platform, and no one really used it. And then we launched SageMaker a couple of years ago now, and now you're seeing this year we've dropped. I think it's over 15 different new machine learning services. And last year, Andy Jassy talked about that. It's time to actually deliver some outcomes with machine learning, and I think we're getting to the point where it is really usable. Like, it's really, no matter where you are in the cycle, there's some stuff where it's been a bit of a machine learning everywhere kind of reinvent. Even if you look at like some of our analytics plays, they've got machine learning, and if you look at you're baking machine learning in so that it's almost just sort of default now. You're almost not thinking about it as machine learning. It's just a service that does something at one level. So I think it's just going to be easier and easier to use machine learning.
And you used the Lego analogy earlier when we were talking, and I think Lego used to mean you just buy blocks and you'd make whatever you wanted. Yeah. I think if we took the Lego analogy a little bit further, it's like you can get all the blocks and the blocks come out, but then the next year there's this kit, and it could be the Star Wars one, and it puts all the blocks together, and it's here's the instructions to pre-assemble, and it's a bit of that as well. All these great services, and then probably in the first iteration a little harder to consume and put together, and then the next year they're all a bit more mature. But also there's this thing now that wraps them all up, and you just plug it in, plug it into your sales data, into this data, and from a machine learning perspective, now you get an outcome, that kind of thing.
We think a lot about builders at AWS, and so this is where this Lego concept works on. But there's different types of builders, and some of our builders love playing with the Lego blocks and stitching everything together. But you're right. I think there's a lot of people out there who want to be able to come at this in a kind of orchestrated way. So I mean, Amplify is a great example of I'm a front-end developer. I'm just trying to get my mobile app out. I don't want to have to learn all the intricate concepts of how AWS works, and then Amplify provides you that orchestration there. I think you were mentioning data lakes, and I'm an analytics guy. I just want to get an analytics outcome, not have to learn about IAM rules and security building, but all of that kind of stuff. So I think we're absolutely trying to, at Amazon we listen to customers. We go out where we go, what do you need? What would make this more useful? And they tell. And lots of people have been telling us it would be great if it was easier to get started. So hopefully we're listening to that, and we're SageMaker Studio, great example.
Yep.
I live in my studio, and I code as if I'm a data scientist. I like working in notebooks. I just want to stay in my notebook world and be able to run from there. So those sort of concepts is how do we get more builders building on AWS.
Yes. Absolutely, and I think I did get up for the 4:30 a.m. start to watch Werner Vogel's keynote this week. which actually I found quite a good productive time quietly. But some really cool stuff in there as well about making it easier, and that was quite dev focused. So you had stuff like managed Prometheus, really cool monitoring tool. If people haven't used it, it's in terms of its ability to sort and organize data. So, but again, it's been very open source based, and you had to sort of roll your own. Now it's packaged up into a managed service, similarly Grafana, and then AWS DevOps Guru as well. So if you've got you're using DevOps processes, you're deploying, building, say, helping spot anomalies and what's going on, and actually come along and say, hey, these are some of the things that we're seeing that aren't quite right, and help it, and taking AWS's learning from your own DevOps processes and saying, we can actually package this up and give it to smaller DevOps teams that just don't have the ability to invest and mature at the same rate.
Yeah, I think as a couple of reformed operations guys, like the anomaly detection kind of use case hits quite home with me, because I don't know if you remember, like setting kind of threshold monitoring. Like I'll have my threshold monitoring, I'll have it really high so I don't get too many alerts. Well, then you miss stuff, and then I'll set it low, but now you just got nothing but false positives kind of coming out of this thing. It's useless. Suddenly you just go, well, I'm just going to have anomaly detection using machine learning, and it will actually learn normal patterns and tell me actually when something. I mean, that's got to make life a lot easier, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I think you never had the volume of data, and you never had quite the tools to train that stuff. And so to have that now, just you can package that in, and that's standard. You can focus a lot more on what's important. Which is key.
I think the other thing to remember about machine learning is it does improve over time. So when you first spoke to your Siri on your phone, it probably only got it right 6 out of 10 times maybe, and now it's getting a lot more accurate. And so I think when people look at these new machine learning services, I think you've got to skate to where the puck is a little bit. Some of them are coming out and they're kind of it's actually working 80% of the time. That's probably quite good, and it's going to get to 90, and it's going to get to 95, and then it'll get to 99. Some of these things are just going to get more and more useful as more data comes in, as we classify more data, as we. So that's an interesting concept, because I think we're used to going, well, I'm going to adopt a service when it works all of the time.
Yeah. Well, you talked about earlier, not a minimum viable product, but a minimum lovable product, and that somebody loves it, but it's not maybe quite for the masses yet. And you definitely, to your point, you can skate to the puck. It's kind of a twofold thing. You can skate to the puck and make it work. On the flip side, they kind of give it a year, and things have advanced so much as well that half the time they're there, and you can just flick a switch almost.
Well, they're moving really fast, aren't they? It's certainly that was exciting for me to see at reInvent, was some of the services where it's like not all of our services becomes hugely popular services. That's the reality of it. But what we do is we put them in front of customers, we hear from customers, and they tell us, actually, that's really good, and it'd be even better if you did these things. So, I mean, QuickSight is another one where I think people have misunderstood QuickSight a little bit. There's some really mature services in the BI space. Tableau are a really big partner of ours, and they do a fantastic job. And I'm not sure that QuickSight is trying to compete with that. But actually, there's a lot of people that have BI use cases that are a lot simpler than what Tableau can do. It's a real power horse. But it's, QuickSight is built cloud native from the get-go. It's massively, it's HA out the box. You pay for it as a service. You don't get any kind of performance slowdown at month end. It's just massively scalable. It's not as feature rich as Tableau, but it added connectors for Elasticsearch. It added, a whole bunch of capability in there that is making a lot of people go, oh, that's really
I could plug this.
That's really useful.
Yeah.
Like that could be quite handy. I've got a use case where people are doing public dashboards. So going out to the mass public and giving a BI experience to a general public. You wouldn't want to do that with Tableau, because you're not licensed the general public with a Tableau license. So there's use cases that you can think about there and go, wow, that would be. How exciting if you could have a public information portal where people can, really slide around their graphs and connect it to all sorts of data sources. And then we announced QuickSight Q, where you ask a natural language question, and that's like the that's the most beautiful context as a business user, isn't it? I mean, I don't know how long it, when I'm writing a monthly report and I'm hunting through my kind of BI system trying to find the data that supports the argument I'm trying to make. Nothing, it's hard work. Whereas you type something into a Google search bar and just, when you're settling a debate with your mate, like, oh, when was this guy born? I just type quest pops up. That's the vision. That's where we love to be in terms of the business data that we have.
So you'd like to get to a point where you can just type and make me look good.
Exactly.
All the data comes out. Neil did this. He did that. Fantastic.
I need to write a promo doc. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you also mentioned with QuickSight there's more multi-tenancy capability in it now, in terms of being able to report and have different customers or tenants and potentially a shared pool of data behind them, but securing that. And I think that's a great extension on what we've seen with lake formation, where the concept of catalogs and there, you could have a pool of data and you could see quite specific, masking of data, security, removing rows or columns for, particular users, allowing others full access. And it's a nice extension on top of that to have the visualization actually provide you that extra layer of governance and security as well.
It is, it's so important, especially when our SaaS companies are building products. They've the only way to build a product in this day and age is really do it multi-tenant if you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because you just make way more money. That's the reality. You can make more money.
The cost of copy goes right down, right?
Exactly. And so you want to be doing that just to be competitive in market. But it's hard, especially if you're selling a SaaS product into an enterprise, because the enterprises need to know that their data is secure, especially if you're in a vertical. Imagine, if you're serving banks and one bank can see the other bank's data, or one power company see the other power company's data, and that's we can't have that. So you've got to be able to have a very high security posture around data integrity, but you've got to be able to do multi-tenancy, or else you're not going to be able to compete in this market. And so those two things have been real trade-offs before, and I think we're starting to see us building these kind of more easier patterns, easier kind of building blocks to be able to get there without having to kind of invent all of that logic yourself at a very low level, and keep you as a product builder closer to the business logic that's important, right? Multi-tenancy is a problem that just all SaaS companies have. It doesn't matter which vertical you're in. And the thing that we want our technology partners to focus on is their domain expertise. That's where they're real specialists, is being really close to their customers. So that's great to see some of this.
One of the other pieces that may seem like a small release, but I think in reality is quite a big change, is S3 moving from eventual consistency to strong consistency. So it's S3 sort of sat there as it started off as a place I could put some files or store some stuff and bit of data. Then to being able to analyze data and sort data, being able to query across structured data and unstructured data. So we've kind of started using it as a database, right? But the thing that's been missing is, it was eventually consistent. It would, 11.9's durability. Yep. There's a lot happening in terms of replicating that and sorting, making sure that happens in a really good way across regions and the globe. To then add the strong consistency. So not only can you do that, but it's doing that almost immediately, and you can truly start to use it as a bit more of a real-time database. But that's quite big.
It's interesting, isn't it? These are I think you're right in calling it out. S3's been described not by us, but by other people as a sort of almost like a modern wonder of the technology age, in terms of these sort of low-level foundational services that certainly all of our product teams have, think about S3 in their architecture. They think about serverless first. They think about these sort of modern architectures. But you're right. You change something small at the bottom end, and we might see a whole new set of architectural patterns kind of just emerging out of it, in terms of how these things, hard to predict actually, but really exciting to see what customers do with that, as you say.
Totally. And look, talking about customers, fantastic to see a couple of Kiwi customers showcased this year as well.
Yeah, look, I think this is a real theme for us. When we see, as the AWS New Zealand team, when we sit around and talk, we go, we really see it's actually a part of our vision for the New Zealand economy that I think we want to be seen as a kind of a high-tech exporting economy. I think the whole tech sector here is super exciting. It provides, you see the tin launch. They had all these Kiwi companies building amazing businesses from here, and almost the COVID this year almost provides a greater opportunity for us to kind of sit in New Zealand and sell things around the world. And so our vision is like, how can we really bolster the R&D, the product development that happens in this country? So we had Vector included in the IoT keynote. Really excited about the work we're doing with those guys. We've got 20 people working on between AWS and Vector, really working hard grids. So New Zealand, this is a great fact about New Zealand. We've got more renewable energy as part of our electric system than most places around the world. Everyone else is heading in the direction we're already at. So AWS has made a decision to invest with Vector here to really understand what happens in a power grid, how you monitor it, how you manage it, when you're doing renewables. Because if you've got a lot of solar, you have a lot of power coming onto the grid at certain times a day, and then not at others. Same with wind. You can balance that out a bit with hydro, but that's compared to having a couple of coal-fired plants or a big nuclear plant on one end of a grid and a very consistent feed. It's a difficult challenge. And so between AWS and Vector, we're doing some really kind of interesting R&D to go, how do you manage the future grid? Some of that will be Vector building capability. They're going to turn into a great tech company exporting capability around the world. Some of that will be some of these lower level building blocks that will be used by other people in the industry. But that's super exciting. We had Orion Health was part of the Health Lake launch. So further kind of verticalization of some of these building blocks. We've been very horizontal traditionally, but we've seen Health Lake come out, Comprehend Medical, Transcribe Medical, getting into how you secure patient data in the right way when you're running these data lakes, and then how to understand those relationships when inside of your data with Comprehend Medical, Transcribe Medical, those relationships between patient and dosage and medicines and whether or not, one of the great things that Comprehend Medical does is understand whether the patient is supposed to be having that medicine or not. Do they?
Yeah.
all of that kind of stuff, so that again, people like Orion Health can start to build that into an actual solution that a healthcare provider can use and turn around. So they've been really helpful. They've been working quite closely with us, and we're a launch partner with Health Lake. So
absolutely. And look, I think it is when you walk into a hospital and you know what sits behind that, or you plug in a Tesla Powerwall and have some solar panels, and you know how that stuff works and what's contributed to that journey. That's actually the really cool thing, the quite exciting thing in our industry. It's as much as the platforms and that we work on day to day have the ability to change the world. It's only when they're put into a practical application that you go, wow, that's a light bulb moment. That's actually that's a game changer. And I think that's awesome to see a couple of Kiwi companies up there as well.
Absolutely. And they're just like the tip, really. There's just so many great Kiwi companies. I mean, you've interviewed stacks of them here on the show.
It's been good.
And we need to tell more and more of their stories, I think. There's so many great companies in New Zealand, so many great entrepreneurs, so much kind of great innovation. And actually it's a bit of a cycle, isn't it? The guys that have kind of grown their careers up in Xero or Vend, or they're jumping out and they're starting new things, and it's actually turning into a really impressive ecosystem, I think, here in New Zealand.
It is. It's awesome. Yeah. Cool. Look, thanks a lot for joining us today, Neil. Great to chat.
No worries.
And it's been cool towards the end of the year to have a little bit of new tech stuff to just soak up and go away, think about at the beach over summer, and so
think about what we'll do next year.
Think about next year, and think about what all this stuff can enable us to do.
Fantastic. Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, awesome. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
And thanks for joining us again. This will be our last full Top Shelf Tech of the year. So hopefully you've enjoyed the series.